Hey friends, this is Fred here. I just wanted to come online and say thank you and do a couple of other things. I wanted to update you on our thinking, our response. But first, I want to say thank you for your feedback, your kindness, including negative feedback. All feedback is a gift. And so we try to listen well, both to you, both to our miners, both to the market that we aim to serve. And we try to respond really well. So thank you. Thank you for your feedback. It really is always welcome and deeply appreciated. A few things I want to talk through very quickly. I will fly through this because I'm hoping we can get an hour and a full opportunity, maybe in a novelty search session or any other session, to really talk through the details of some of our work. But I wanted to clarify our work, its position in the marketplace, our foundations, what we care about. And really, I want to start doing that by talking to you about a person called Jeremy. Jeremy is a research engineer who lives in Kampala, Uganda. Previously, Jeremy would be able to build products like using traditional methods and ship those products. And the building process wasn't that expensive. But one of the things we're seeing with AI is inference cost is really high. Like to fine tune a model is not cheap. And if you're not in the West or you're in Africa where like the 4090 is a big deal. That's not accepted on many compute subnets on BitTensor, but it's really a big deal. It's very important for some of these people. So really, you think of Jeremy and you think, okay, what happens to Jeremy's capacity to build if compute is beyond his reach? Is he just going to spend his life begging for grants? What service can BitTensor enable us to build something that can really meet the needs of people like Jeremy who have low resources, they're in an underserved area. One man's meat is another man's poison here. They don't need a H100 or a B200, although we have H100s on our platform. They actually just need decent compute. They need inference. They need tools so that they can build and also participate in the AI revolution. And being a team from Africa, and I live between Africa and the US, like just seeing like the challenge that people have there to access resources, the real need. So when we got the opportunity to jump on BitTensor, we figured, hey, look, let's build something that can make AI participation accessible to everybody. We don't want anybody to be left behind. We believe that the languages of Africa, the people of these places that really lack computational resources is really important. And we want to expose that to the world. We want to build a service that really delivers a lot of value in this regard. That was how we started. We wanted to help Jeremy so that he can go not just to experimentation, but go from experimentation to real product, real AI research in a sustainable manner. And so when we started, we had a free compute trial. You can still find it on Medium called Here's to the GPU Poor. And for the first few months of our compute service, it was entirely free and you could rent a machine for 24 hours. And that was really great for us to test the systems. The miners, of course, gave me many sleepless nights. And we really learned a lot from that experience, right? We learned about how to build a compute subnet. We learned from the other subnets that exist. We refined our value proposition. And we are gearing up to relaunch this service as a paid service. And I'll explain to you a little bit about it in a minute and why it's different from the other subnets on BitTensor that seemingly play in the same space. But that was where we started. We had this goal to serve this person or this group of people, researchers, students, people in universities, particularly underserved areas. We built an initial service. We opened it up, gave it away for free, got a lot of feedback, got really decent utilization rates. But we realized that, hey, okay, we want to build a sustainable business because that's the best way that we can form a solid foundation and deliver on our Afro Tensor vision, bringing BitTensor and the power of the network to Africa, underserved regions, to not only transform lives in the West, but transform lives in the way we work and the way we build in an area that's just ripe for innovation and bursting with opportunity. And so that was what we did. And so when you look at our package that we have, it really is distinct from the other services. Firstly, price per unit, we try to think about the user we're building for. What does Jeremy need? Jeremy needs a service that he can go to and use that has basically the full stack of the utilization needs. I'll explain what that means, right? So we talk about APIs for inference, we talk about compute access, we talk about applications, and increasingly now we're talking about mining. And so we started there. And then for our registration, we had a CLI. And one of the things we like to do is be very sensitive to the user needs that we have. And so we spend a lot of time with our users. We spend 4 or 5 hours a day with miners watching them use our tool for a good period of time. Not only did we end up developing beautiful, wonderful relationships with many of these people, we also found something really magical. The complexity of registering to mine on Bit10 was a real barrier, stopping people from registering on the network. It was stopping people from mining. In fact, many people who mine our subnets, when I ping them and ask them, hey, have you mined the subnets? And one user, to quote, says, I choose for easy mining. They haven't been able to mine other subnets because it is complex. And we want to enable anybody to mine. And that's kind of part of our commitment. So we jump in meetings with people, we'll enable them to. But this experience from watching people, learning from them, led us from building a CLI to building a desktop app for users to use. And now we have a full web experience. We have an article on this. Maybe we can link it to this post, just detailing the simplicity and beauty of the miner experience and how we approach validation, which is completely distinct from everybody else. And not only that, though, like we have applications. And so the best way to give you a flavor of this is just to turn to Polaris a minute. So you come here, you come to get compute. And there's something to be said for the fact that we have 48 GPUs across 51 miners. So if you look at all the other compute subnets, Polaris has the most distinct miner UIDs registered. Some subnets are extremely high valued, but have 10, 12, 13 miners with all that tile being distributed. And some subnets have such high requirements that really their miners are primarily data centers. And I don't know if maybe they are partnerships or contracts, but like at some point you have to ask yourself, how open is open, right? How decentralized is decentralized? At what point do we get so saturated with very big players that like the guy at home with the GPU cannot register and mine on a compute subnet? We wanted to be the people that were more open, more flexible, but we also wanted to deliver a different approach because we're building for a specific use case. So when you come to Polaris, what you're actually getting is a compute service with a distinct pricing approach, but also you're getting like a suite of applications, which we've been diligently building, from a standard VS Code environment in case you need to do some engineering work, a Jupyter notebook, which CUDA access for experimentation. You can see our researcher focus. We have this Ubuntu desktop, which is a magical experience where you deploy and you have a full desktop environment. We have things like Olama, where you can come in and see how we're building layers on top of open software. You can deploy a model, you can chat, all within your pod. One of the goals we have is to really double down on privacy and security, trust and execution environments. You could come here and do what you need to do. And the beauty of all this is we're not charging you on a per unit basis. We have a subscription service that you can utilize. And you can see we have Transformer Lab there. We've been learning from them, partnering with them for quite some time. If you don't know what Transformer Lab is, it's a basically AI experimentation environment that we've packaged in the cloud and we are able to tie to individual compute nodes. And so you come as a researcher, right? And you're like, gosh, I really want to build and it's really expensive to do. So what service is there that enables me to do? And so that's where Polaris comes in. And you can see we have to refine this for clarity so what people are really clear what they get. But like you can see, we have a minimal set of pricing tiers, and we have increasing scholarships. We have a student plan which we'll be making more generous, verifying with universities, particularly people in Africa and these places where the need is so great. And so we have basically fairly well integrated, very well packaged value proposition for a very specific set of customers who value all sorts of compute capability. And the thing is, like, we have pricing on here, but we've chosen not to activate it just yet because one of the things we notice is sometimes on this page, like the nodes get refreshed. That's on purpose because we are constantly checking which machines are online and offline because we want to give people really high availability, really high reliability. We have some works to do with backing up the service, because most of these are on containers, backing up the service so that if you're using a machine on Polaris, something goes down, you're really secure. We have some work to do to make sure our templates are really working, our applications always deploy seamlessly. Should a machine fail in the rare occasion where you're trying to deploy, we want to make that fail gracefully and transfer you to another machine and provide clear affordances so that the users know what they experience. And not only have we built this, we've also built like a backend service, right? So we're the only subnet that we triple check the compute we get. We have somebody who manually verifies all of our compute, and we have a back office environment that's fairly sophisticated. We created this really for agentic use cases because we want our company to be staffed by both agents and people. But one of the things you can see here is you can come to our rejected resources and you can see we start aggregating really useful data. Why are we rejecting machines? What are the use cases? What are the reasons why we're rejecting machines? And we have a lot of insights here. You can see very clearly here, we have a lot of machines, no mining allowed, and we have machines here for mining. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the mining thing because it's important to understand where this comes from, how it fits with our vision and where we're going in that regard. But like, I hope I've been able to articulate somewhat to you how Polaris is different. And I used a bunch of words. So let me try to use a picture. If you look, for example, you have at the top, you have compute and more, so offering more than compute services. On the bottom, you have primarily compute services. On the right hand, you have pricing per unit, so 0.65 cents an hour for a 4090 or a 5090. And on the far right, you have like a single subscription. And what you find is that a lot of the compute subnets on the BitTensor network right now, they really fit in the bottom left, right? They offer compute at a price per unit basis. From the ground up, we never intended to do that because we were focused on Jeremy. What does Jeremy need? Who's really a sample user for a lot of our customer segment. Like, what does Jeremy need? And so fundamentally, you can see how at the far top, we are distinct in this regard. So we offer not just compute, we offer applications, we offer inference services, and now we're doing mining. What's the story with mining? Why did it come about? What does it mean? So really the story of mining became a bigger focus for us when we looked at the saturation problem, because even if we have a distinct value proposition, different from a lot of the subnets on BitTensor, one of the things we realize is going for that value proposition first may not be the wisest thing to do. Because number one, if we're looking for customers to pay us for compute, every subnet is fair game because every subnet where we can utilize our compute for the purpose of mining essentially pays us and we don't have to go and find customers. So we aren't abandoning our mission necessarily, but we are flipping it a little bit by starting with focusing on generating revenue through the means of mining and providing our compute on other subnets. And then that gives us room and that gives us runway to really focus on our full stack services. Like, we own the domain polariscompute.com, but we chose deliberately not to utilize that name. We went with Polaris Cloud for a reason, because we felt it embodied the fullness of the services that we are trying to bring to the world. So there's that. And so when you break that down, you decompose that a little, what does that really mean? So you might say we are developing a Polaris mining network as a first phase. And right now what we're doing is manual mining across multiple subnets, generating us actual revenue. Some of that revenue, we're doing three things fundamentally with it. We're holding revenue in strategic subnets. One, because we care about your mission and purpose, and we don't want to drain, we don't want to farm subnets, we don't want to mine subnets and just dump their token. However, some of the revenue we're getting is actually going back to sustaining and paying the team. And a third of the revenue we're getting, not exactly that split, but once we increase that revenue, it will be about a third or something similar, is going buybacks. And we have completed, actually, a lot of people know this, but we completed 2 buybacks. Now, we bought back was fairly low based on the revenue we were getting, about $1,000. But the idea was that we started with testing this phenomenon of mining using compute accessible on our network. We had to modify things like I showed you to make sure miners can specify if we're allowed to use their machine for the purpose of mining or not. And that infrastructure is super intuitive, super flexible. We can do so much with it. And yet we have a very clear and defined focus of providing cloud services for AI researchers, empowering them through single subscription to do more, to achieve more, and enabling every researcher on the planet to achieve more, particularly underserved areas. And then we're taking our manual mining learning I've been hiring this week we're automating it. So we have a team manually mining subnets to generate revenue, and we have a squad coming alongside them to learn from them and automate the subnet mining processes. And that's why when you come here, you can see, you click on mining and you filter down. You can see EasyMine IOTA and EasyMine Distributed. This is like a service that we've been building that we've been building it for ourselves so we can deploy miners at scale and harness the swarm of compute we have to generate large amounts of revenue. But we also have conceptualized this as a potential future service. And part of the joy we have in this area and this work and this workflow is that we intend to open this up so that others can contribute applications, incentivized, allowing us to transcend what we think is possible today in terms of automated mining. But our first phase of automated mining is really automating a lot of the manual steps we're doing right now so that we can mine at scale. And then that gives us time to keep working, keep building our cloud services and build it into a real business, a real company that's really equivalent to what OpenAI I think should have been, but for the underserved, the forgotten, those who are building remarkable things in quiet. And I'd love to tell you more about that as we go on in our journey together. A bit of detail. Over the last 2 months, we've been mining small scale. It was an experiment. Last month, we made 1.5K. We had an intention to 10x that this month, but we've really been hampered by a number of issues. Particularly, we've had a number of different things to focus on. We haven't scaled our automation yet. We're still figuring out the right set of subnets to mine. So we didn't just focus on mining one, we're experimenting, but we're now really closing in on the set of subnets to mine. Essentially, we have customers we're selling compute to. It's just not the original customer segment we want. It's a different customer segment, and that's fine because that allows us to generate a lot of revenue. And the amount of compute we've used for this to get to where we are now, what we've measured out and mapped out is that we can easily grow this, even with mono mining, by 5 to 10x in the next couple of months. And that's our mission. So our next steps, really briefly, is we're hiring, put out some offers today. I'm waiting to hear back from people who have experience in compute. They've worked on BitTensor before. Some are new people, some are existing people. And we want to get people who are going to come and really focusing on automation, automating the manual processes we're doing now so that we can mine more, mine faster. And so when you look at the slogan on our website, when we say mine faster, do more, that's kind of what we're talking about. We're saying we have a suite of applications we're giving to customers. We're enabling you to mine with one click, enter your pre-registered hot and cold key, but we also want to be very deliberate in generating revenue so that we have a really strong, sustainable ecosystem in the short term while we build for a longer term, audacious vision for a company that hopefully will be known across Africa, across the world, Asia, Middle East, India. So yeah, that's where we are. 3 things we're doing over the next week. Number one, because of our refined focus, we want to focus on establishing our mining operation first and then come back to everything later. We're refining our compute requirements to be more precisely targeted towards the subnet we want to mine, explicitly differentiate a little bit stronger about compute that enable mining or don't enable mining. We want to just refine that a little bit so that we have really targeted compute. And then with that targeted compute, we can go from 2% utilization for mining to 100% utilization for mining, both manually and then scaled automatically. Our current plans was primarily doing things manually, but we have a 10x target for when we automate things. And we should know any challenges we'll have, any issues we have, we should know already, and be able to start proving the feasibility of these out in the next month. Not all subnets are going to be automatable. That's part of the beauty of having a back office like we do. We can augment things manually. We can scale the team to do that if we need to. But we do think just that we have chosen initially for the strategic purpose of revenue generation are easily scalable, feasibly scalable. Of course, as I have mentioned before, we want to expand our buyback programs to boost our alpha. And again, this is not like a thing we're saying just so we can vibe people up to hold our alpha. No, we are asking you to invest in Polaris from your heart as a long-term game, okay? And we are telling you that as part of our stewardship, we will ensure we do everything in our power to make sure our token ecosystem, our product offering is not only revenue generating, but is highly targeted towards the right set of people. So I'm hoping that I've covered a lot of questions that people have asked and comments that people have made. How is Polaris different from Liam and other subnet doing similar things? We've stated that. How do we intend to differentiate ourselves further? We stated that. What's our short to medium term revenue goal? We stated that. And really, there's no telling where we can go with the mining. We have so many great thoughts about how this can work. And we are happy for this to be a principal focus for a period of time so that we can just get out of the stress of not being sure if we're going to survive long enough to build the dream that we have. So that's that. Fundamentally, like, again, just thank you. We talk about people reaching for the stars. Like, I want Jeremy to be able to reach for the stars. I don't want him to be hindered. I don't want Helen to be hindered. I don't want the people I know to be hindered. One of the most profound moments of this for me was when I hired some people on my team and we needed them to start doing testing and they didn't have GPUs and had to loan them their machines. And so that speaks to two things. It speaks to the great need that many of you may not be aware of, but it also speaks to the beauty of the partnership that we've been building with our miners, although they have given me many sleepless nights, and some of you know yourself. So this is just a brief summary, just to punctuate some of the discussions and the conversations that's been happening over the last few days. But we look forward to the opportunity to come and share in a more detailed manner, like others have been, about our work. We welcome such opportunities, and we're so thankful for our friends who have been encouraging us and pushing us to do more than we ever thought was possible. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.